My name is Fauzia Howell. I've been living in this flat for 50 years. I've been born here, raised here, and I'm raising my grandchildren. And here by us, the crime is so bad. People going to work, coming back, get robbed. In our area, in our resident area, the drugs, the children from outside come in, they smoke into our premises, they steal our clothes on our lines. They've been dumping on our spaces. Our children are getting sick. Nobody's coming here to clean. We've outside here, the rats. Our places are, it's a heritage, yes. And the way the place is broken. Our flats has been painted last 31 years ago. They have painted our place. They only put 31 years ago geysers in. Our geysers are messed. It's broken, it's leaking. Our electric wires, they steal our things. We call city powers and say, come see our boxes where it's dangerous for the children. They don't come fix it outside. The drains, if our drains and things block, we have to see it ourselves. We as neighbors must come together and say, when there's a guy in front that doesn't work, so he has to come out and fix where it's broken. No, and now we've got old people here. We can't even lock our burglars at night because they come steal our burglars. Our letter boxes are gone. We don't get proper services in Bika Reed. It's not now, it's for years going on. We get counselors. They just come now and promise us A, B, C, and D. And after that, we don't see them. Our area is not about the gangs. It's mostly the drugs. That's the main issue here by us, is the drugs. You must see younger children, younger than that one standing there, Rabia. They are on drugs. Our children is not even safe playing in the park.
My name is Neo Kwaho. I wear several hats, but today I'm speaking as the National Media Liaison Officer for iCollege. Now, we are working in the areas of Westbury, El Dorado, Tucumstres, Eersteres, and so forth. But if you take note of the areas I've just mentioned, these are areas which are said to be colored communities. The reason why we've decided to put a specific focus in these particular areas, in recent months in South Africa, we have seen how the colored communities around South Africa have gone up in arms to demonstrate and to make displays of their unsatisfactions in terms of various issues like drug abuse and so forth. If you take a special note and zoom into this current situation within these areas that we've decided to identify, you'll notice that quite a number of these areas are affected by the use of drugs and gang violence, and mostly these affect the young people. So we decided that we would put our special focus on this area because of the opportunity that we have. When you see young people not being constructive and not being progressive, it is because most of the time is they don't have a lot of options, and due to various circumstances that you find that these young people are not in education, they are not in employment, nor are they in training. So these are the youth that we call the neared youth. Now, as iCollege, we have said we would set our specific focus to make sure that we can impact and change the lives of as many young people as possible within these communities. When we came in and we made our proposal to the communities, I must say that Kofifi FM, one big station or community radio station that was very in touch with the community and still very much in touch to date, said to us, this is an incredible opportunity for young people between the ages of 18 up to 27 to access free education, tertiary education. Most of our private institutions in South Africa, you've got to pay quite an exorbitant amount of money or quite a sizable amount of money to be able to access further education beyond matric. And the townships and the areas that we are referring to, very few people actually have the means, nor do they qualify for a loan to pay for these types of fees. So iCollege has got a scholarship whereby we've come into the Westbury community and every other colored community around Gauteng to say, we want to talk to the young people that are affected by drugs, that are affected by the violence, that are affected by the negative circumstances that surround them, to say to them, here is an opportunity for you to study at iCollege.
So we still have the guys from iCollege here. If you would like a 3 years bursary for anyone, I think it's from grade 11. If you have your latest results and also a certified copy of your ID, please do come through to our studios. The guys are here taking application, giving out application forms and helping you to answer all of your questions that you might have. They will be here at our studios until 1 o'clock this afternoon. So any questions that you have, please do come.
Yeah, and I read through that brochure that they've got there. There's some very, very nice courses that they're offering. I mean, project management is the in thing now, and they're offering it. Marketing, IT courses, you know, it's relevant stuff the industry is needing at the moment. So if you want to get one of those, you know, come in, get the application form, fill it in, and send it back to us. And who knows, you might be studying for free for the rest of the year.
iCollege has 15 campuses. Now it's 16 around the country in every province except the Northern Cape as well as the Free State. But that is something that is in the pipeline. But in Gauteng alone, iCollege has 16 campuses where we accommodate young people that lack the funds or lack the pre-required marks or results to be able to access tertiary education in your traditional universities. iCollege is willing to say to these young people, we've got courses that you can do. iCollege is fully accredited with the relevant authorities in South Africa. And a young person can come in and pick either of the full-time courses that are on offer. And all a young person really is obligated to do is to show up. So it's very simple application process, and all they have to do is meet the following criteria. They need to be between the ages of 18 up to 27. The young person needs to be a South African with a valid South African ID. All courses that are on offer go up to a value of 42,000 rand. That is how much as a young person you'd have to pay at any other private institution. But at iCollege, when you come and apply to do a course, what then iCollege does is it takes your application, it goes and speaks to various private companies for them to commit themselves to paying for your school fees. So we've got quite a number of companies that have already agreed to this. So yes, they may not be covering everything, but they're covering quite a large sum. And what the company will do is they will pay for your tuition fees, and they will also pay for your textbooks and study material. And then your own responsibility as a young person is then to pay registration fee. It is 600 Rand. We do not forego that this may be a lot of money for a lot of people. So number one, you only pay this 600 Rand registration fee once you have been notified and you've received confirmation that you've got the 1 year full-time scholarship at iCollege to study.
My name is Peter Henry Favor. I was born and raised in Westbury, a native township back then. And I became also part and parcel of this epidemic. We have a community that has been overpopulated with drugs, gangsterism. The fight has spiraled over, and a lot of young men has become involved in gangsterism. And the thing that does not help in our community is the high unemployment rate. So it's easy access for drug dealers to come into our community and to tell people, look, if you sell so much and so much, by the end of the day, you will make a good profit. Though it might not be seen as something good, but it's something that has put food on the table. You know, and selling drugs has become a lucrative business. And a lot of our boys, especially in our colored communities, there's not so much role models. So the role models automatically come those with the big cars, with the chains, you know, bracelets and that. So our boys, instead of wanting to become a teacher, doctor, or soccer player, they want to emulate the drug dealers. We have come to a point in 1999, after burying friends, week in and week out, standing in front of open graves. Then one pastor, namely Freddie Edwards, came on the scene and he brought peace to Westbury in 1999. Now, the peace lasted for quite some time, understand? But now it did eradicate gangsterism. But the thing that still stood is unemployment. Back then, most of the so-called gangsters did put their weapons down and they attended church. Where the fault of the church came in, the church didn't look after the guys. Some of them already bought houses, some of them bought cars, and they couldn't pay the bond or pay the what's the name on the car. And they went right back to what they know best. And that is one of our problems in our society. You understand? You can easily lure the young boys into coming to sell for you because it's something that managers earn. Maybe you'll give him 10,000 for the month or 15 grand. And I'm not going to say that the parents of Westbury are bad, but sometimes in order for them to have something on the table, they have to look away. If the church could just look after the guys, I'm not saying give them 20,000, 30,000, you understand? But look after them, look after their families.
My name is Dr. Delana Cole van der Linde, and I'm a lecturer at the Northwest University. Now, I did my research on criminal gang activities, more specifically anti-gang legislation. I looked at the Prevention of Organized Crime Act in South Africa, which was promulgated in 1999 to really combat a trinity of crimes, that is criminal gang activities, racketeering, and money laundering offenses. Now, Chapter 4 of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act looks specifically at gangs. And if you remember, towards the mid to late 1990s, there was really a gang war going on in Cape Town. Pachat was running rampant in some contexts. They were originally formed to battle gangs or fight against gangsterism, but often were then participating in these type of offenses they were really battling. So the state really had to find a measure to deal with gangsterism, and that was Chapter 4 of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act. This act originates from California, and police officers from South Africa really went to the United States for training courses and then found this act in California and brought it back and presented it to the legislature to incorporate into the Prevention of Organized Crime Act. It was then accepted, but without a very important feature, the gang database. This gang database recorded gang tattoos, colors, signs, and insignia, which identified specific gang members and gang leaders, which made the prosecution of gang crimes much easier. Police officers are actively patrol areas and gather this type of evidence to add to the database. This made the prosecution of gangs much easier. This feature is absent in our Prevention of Organized Crime Act and really does make the prosecution of gangs difficult because there is a great lack of evidence. Gang activities are perpetrated in the dark. It's clandestine activities. So it's very difficult to gather evidence, and the gang leaders in particular are very often far removed from the actual commission of the crime. So they would instruct their subordinates to do something, and there would be no evidence of the instruction, making the prosecution of them in particular very difficult. So it was very difficult to then prosecute gang crimes, and the act really fell out of favor. And it really didn't add much to the arsenal of South Africa's criminal justice system. It didn't add really new punishments or create new crimes that didn't already exist. The sentencing of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act in this regard is extremely weak. Gang members can face from 3 to 6 years imprisonment, and instructing a gang offense worryingly only carries a 3-year sentence. How could gang activities then receive such a slight punishment when so many people's lives are affected by criminal gang activities? 21.6% of people murdered in the Western Cape are killed through gang activities. That's about 1 in 5 people are killed through gang-related activities. And that's not just in the Cape Flats area. That's the entire province, where one type of crime is contributing so disproportionately to the crime statistics. The 2016-2017 year, about 2% of murders were committed by gang members nationally. And it's troubling to see how the state is not intervening more in this. Every year there's a new strategy or some kind of outspoken political statement that is being carried out, but nothing is being done. There's not been any carry-throughs for these policies, and there's really no true implementation of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act. Prosecutors find it very difficult to prosecute gang members, like I said, through the lack of evidence. And even if they do, there's not very strong sentences, making it very difficult to disrupt the criminal structure if there's only 3 to 6 year sentences. And as we know, they most likely will not carry out the full term.
Most of those guys that were part and parcel of the peace and reconciliation in 1999, they just went back to what they knew best. You understand? And I was one of those that stood firm. This started way before my time. Back in those days, people used pangas, people used knives. Occasionally a gun would be used, but as time went on, the guns flowed into our community. And come I tell you something, the current fights that's taking place, all the so-called colored areas are having these wars. If you go to Cape Town, Westbury, Eldorado Park, most of the so-called colored areas, you'll hear of gangsterism, drug smuggling. And the point that I want to make is, we don't fight whites. We don't fight Indians. We don't fight blacks. We kill amongst each other. Understand? So that tells me the previous government, they built 500 units with 4 parking spaces. So you tell me, what did the whites really think about a so-called color? You understand? And by putting people in such a small space creates animosity. So the very next thing we do, we fight amongst each other. We are too cropped up. There's no space for us. If you go around, maybe there's an open ground and there's a stadium. You understand? And it has to be occupied by how many thousand people? You understand? So this thing has been planned. You understand? For us it's basically a rule and divide. With me, I had everything. I had cars, I had money, I even lost the house. But what I received from God, you will not be able to pay it for me in monetary value. You understand? He saved my soul and he made me whole. And if you look at it, the price that some of our people paid, most of my friends were incarcerated, they were imprisoned. And I would always come off scot-free. Understand? Some people has thought, no, this one is using a sangoma or he's using this, you understand? But, and you could see Now with me, what really made me become involved, I lost my parents in 1968, Christmas Day. I lost my mom Christmas Day. I lost my granny Boxing Day. So my eldest sister back then was 19. The other one was 15. My brother was 13. I was 8 years old. And we had to be given over to social development welfare, had to take care of us. But my sister was forced into getting married. You understand? Now, from a very young age, I had to look after myself. I had to look after my family. Back in the day, there was called this thing where we sold newspapers in Hillbrow, those different areas in town. The usual 9-year-old would be tucked in bed by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. We were selling newspapers back then, and we would come back home maybe with a 10 or 15 rand, and we would see to our families, you understand? So the challenges that I went through made me who I am today. Even in ministry is not for weak people, because they will trample over you, you know. And ministry it's not just coming in and serving God. There are also, in ministry, there's also bad people. There's people that would not like to see you reach a certain point. There's people that would like to oppress you or put you down, you understand? So you have to be strong on both sides. But I am glad that the Lord came into my life. I'm glad that I'm saved, you understand? And usually what happens, there's an Afrikaans saying that arki na se varkie, you know, that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But I said to myself, not with my kids. I'm drawing a line. So currently my kids are studying. The one did his honors last year at UJ. The other one is currently has been accepted at UJ. You understand? So I have one child, a daughter, that's currently also using drugs in it. But I trust the Lord for her salvation, and that she will come back to the Lord. Come, I tell you, see, whenever there is tears, or when you cause people to cry, your business will never be successful. You might make money now, you might be comfortable now, but the tears of the people will fall on your children. Because now you're this big shot, you're selling this, you're selling that. Tomorrow, remember, your kids don't stay 3 and 4 years. They grow up, they become 15, 16. And now tomorrow, when you feel comfortable with whatever you're doing, and then you find out this special child of yours that you've sent to this special school is on drugs, how will that make you feel? The right thing to do right now, and those that do not serve the Lord are out of favor. The only way now that I can say to our people out there, and I say it day in and day out: trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your path. You see, one way or the other, you'll either end up in jail or you'll end up dead. Because sometimes people talk about a territorial war. When you come into our space and you want to also open a shop, you see, there's people that is called in hitmen. They say there's guys that came in from different places, different that comes in, because now if you look at what has transpired in Westbury, people has been shot during the day. Daylight, people has been shot. And surprise, the perpetrators don't get caught. So it's obviously people from somewhere else that are brought in to do their dirty work. You understand? So my encouragement is stay away from drugs, stay away from gangsterism. Go to church, serve the Lord. I'm not saying by serving the Lord everything will be hunky-dory, because there's also a up and there's also a down.